Welcome to Blockchain 2025. We explore how blockchain technology will affect major industries in the future.
Each episode dissects one industry, how it currently works, why blockchain can disrupt it, and some blockchain projects trying to be the solution.
Blockchain 2025 is part of the Bitcoin.com podcast network. Learn about Bitcoin, create a wallet, and buy your first Satoshis all at Bitcoin.com.
Welcome to Blockchain 2025, our second episode today. My name is Matt Aaron.
And I'm Nick Cutnero.
Well, Nick, great news. We didn't get canceled after the pilot episode.
I'm excited to be here. That's fantastic news.
Yeah, man. Me too. And as we're going to do every week, let's get the bio, the February 16th, 2018 bio of Nick. Who is Nick Cutnero?
I'm an internet entrepreneur. I've been selling things online since 1999, got started with eBay. I own a digital agency right now, The Link Builders. I'm also the owner of coinreviews.io, so I really love the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. I actively trade. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars trading, and my passion is investing in real estate. Crazy, I know, with the speculative nature of crypto. My end game is to buy hard assets that produce cash flow where I could sleep at night.
Right. And so you're saying Bitcoin, at least right now, may not be one of those assets.
I think crypto just gets me there faster. So a couple weeks ago, markets were down, markets are back up. I like playing the volatility. Volatility for me creates opportunity.
Nick and I are recording over a peer.in. You may ask, why are we not recording over Skype? Well, the short answer is Skype sucks. And any dork or internet entrepreneur knows that Skype has an incredible network effect, and we still have to do calls on it from time to time. But this is just a public service announcement to Skype. You really need to get your act together because there's just so many problems around the world for recording. It's difficult to find contacts. Sometimes when you're calling like 1-800 numbers, the touchpad doesn't work. So yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning that.
Skype's the worst. They should step it up.
Yeah, Skype's... Step it up, Skype. Come on. Maybe we'll talk about decentralized calling and decentralized phones in a future episode. But in all seriousness, Nick, what is today's industry?
Today we're going to be talking about the gambling industry.
Okay, gambling. And this includes all types of gambling. Horse racing, sports betting, poker, blackjack, betting on elections, and all the weird things that you're able to bet on today in 2018. But Nick, I'd like you to take us through it. I mean, what's the current state like for gambling?
For sure. Before we start looking at the current state, more particularly online gambling, let's look at traditional casinos first. And I always like to start with a story, putting myself in a relevant situation. So 10 years ago, I was 22, 23 years old, and I went to Vegas for the first time, and it was pretty awesome. I went with some guys that were a few years older than me. I was like a little brother type scenario. And I remember walking into Mandalay Bay, smelling the coconut scent that they're pumping through the casino for the first time, and hearing all the action, people hooting and hollering at craps tables. And I knew, like, this is really, really cool. I really want to be here. This seems like a lot of fun. So long story short, I went 4 times in a 365-day period. I was gambling then. I don't gamble so much anymore, but some things have never changed when it comes to the way casinos operate. You walk into casinos with cash. You can walk up to a table with cash. You give your cash to a dealer, and they give you chips.
And also worth noting that casinos have not changed in that they usually are cold. They keep the temperature cold so you can't fall asleep. No windows so you lose track of time. And if you don't feel bad, like, oh my God, it's the next day, I'm still in the casino. And it's hard to find clocks.
For sure. And the cigarette smoke will never change as well. But moving on, the model hasn't changed. You gamble in chips. The chips are the currency of the casino, and you trust the chips to be used for wagering, and you trust that you're receiving a fair playing experience. And the casino also trusts, to a certain degree, the players that are entering the casino, mainly that they're going to play fair, they're not going to cheat. And of course, they have security measures in place. They do the best job that they can. And you also need to realize that those very valuable chips are pretty much worthless at the casino across the street, and you're in charge of your cash. You wouldn't leave your cash or your chips on a table and go to the bathroom or hit the buffet line and come back. You treat it like your own property. And that hasn't changed. And I think if people grasp that concept, you can really understand the purpose of cryptocurrency, maintaining control of private keys, your own wallet, controlling your own funds and where you choose to place them, whether it's keeping it on an exchange that's kind of like leaving your chips at a poker table and walking away, or putting it on a thumb drive or like a ledger or Trezor and putting it away in a safe deposit box at a bank.
Yeah, and I made some good points there. You mentioned that the chips themselves, right? Because you're not gambling with US dollars or currency. You're gambling with chips that are only valid at the casino. And if you misplace that $1,000 chip or $500 chip, whatever it is, somewhere, there's not really any recourse to get it back.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what else about gambling that's current now? I'd say that the odds. How do you trust that the gaming is fair? I know there are some like gaming outfits that casinos be certified by some type of certification in like the Cayman Islands and things like that. But for the average person like myself, it's very difficult to verify if the gameplay is fair. You have the card shuffling deck machines, a lot of 6-deck machines on blackjack tables. And then there's also, we'll get into this as well, are the odds and the rake. The rake is used in poker, right? That's how much the house gets for hosting a poker game since everyone's playing against each other. And you've always heard the house always wins. The odds of winning in blackjack are the highest in a casino, right around 48%, but definitely not 50%. And then they have lower level things like slot machines, right? I think it's worth noting right now, and I can only talk about the United States, but I know this applies in other countries, is the regulation. The regulation is pretty rampant in gambling, and it's also very hypocritical. Let me explain why. So in the US, you cannot play online poker, which is a skill-based game at the end of the day, and you have a chance of winning, right? Meaning that you can, if you're good, you can have better than 50% odds of winning. And a lot of times they say we want to protect funds, et cetera, et cetera. And even though kind of ESPN made Texas Hold'em popular with the World Series of Poker back in the early 2000s when they put it on TV, it eventually got banned and regulated. So a lot of times when you say we want to protect the citizens, to me, they're not trying to protect anything. Why? Because daily fantasy sports, like daily fantasy football and fantasy basketball, which has much lower odds than poker, although you can still be good and increase your odds, ESPN and Fox invested in these games, and they're permitted. And then there's also much lower probability games that you find in most states, like the state lottery and Keno, which is a game you play in a lot of kind of bars and so forth. So I don't really think they're trying to protect anything per se.
Definitely. Well, the definition of gambling, you know what you're getting into. You can win, you can lose, but players shouldn't feel as though that the games are rigged, where you can't audit the code. You have no idea what the random number generation patterns will be, if it's greatly favoring the house, which it usually is. And talking about security, another major issue is you may not trust the casino to keep your funds on. You may log offline, come back, and next thing you know, the casino is gone. Now let's talk online gambling. So you find a casino that you like online, you deposit funds. It may take a long time for those funds to deposit. You're unsure if the games that you're playing are fair. If it's a poker scenario, you're unsure if people can see your cards. There's a lot of distrust currently happening in online gambling, and blockchain technology and some of the projects that are currently out, whether they've raised money through an ICO or the platform is functional, that's the future right there. And I think coming back to the name of this podcast, Blockchain 2025, this is a true application where blockchain, decentralization, and cryptocurrency all meet, and all three can be utilized to elevate an entire industry.
For sure. And like you saw in our first episode, it's not going to be a home run in the sense that we're going to say, yeah, blockchain's going to transform everything. But this literally may be one of those industries where it could transform everything, which is really exciting. And you mentioned the lack of provable fairness. I think that's worth mentioning because it may be fair, but just having to doubt that it's fair, that kind of, gambling is entertainment for a lot of people. And that affects the level of entertainment, not being 100% sure that it's fair. You shouldn't even have to think about that.
Without a doubt, it comes down to lack of transparency, lack of provable fairness, lack of security. And this is on both ends for the players as well as the casinos themselves, assuming that the casinos are ethical.
Yeah. And what a lot of people may not know is in online poker, there's a lot of bots that are playing. So you're not even playing against people. You don't know if you're playing against a person or a bot. And these bots are training and they're AI, they're learning, they're getting better and better. It's like, you want to play someone in chess, but you're playing against the computer, And so you could be playing at a table where half the screen names are just screen names of bots and not actual person playing. Lack of transparency. And yeah, I think we've given a pretty good state of the industry. Gambling is a gigantic industry worldwide. Nick, let's move on to the second part of the show. How will decentralized casinos disrupt the industry?
So let's look at increased trust. Now, you touched on some points before, Matt, about bots. And taking it one step further, there are some great identity blockchain technology companies out there to verify identity. Civic is one of them. When you start weaving in elements of know your customer, that greatly eliminates the likelihood of bots or automated play happening within games.
And just to explain that to listeners that may not be familiar with that, Nick, tell me if I have this right. So basically, with Civic or Persona, it's identity verification on the blockchain. So a way to 100% prove your identity to someone else, and that will verify that there'd be no bots playing online, correct?
Absolutely, correct.
Okay, cool.
So right now, a lot of players, they don't trust online casinos. So you start increasing trust, that enables more gameplay. It's fun, again, when you have better odds of winning. And even if you're losing, you can look at a smart contract and say, okay, I know the odds. You can know what you're getting yourself into. So just having that degree of transparency is reassuring for players to play online.
Right. And this moves into smart contracts, right? Using cryptography and records, it makes trust a non-issue. But also, we mentioned odds, and some games have better odds than others. By using these smart contracts, you eliminate overhead of the centralized casino, people watching for card counting or the dealer. I guess the dealer is already taken care of now online, but people watching for card counting and all of this security verification, these smart contracts can eliminate that. And along with cryptocurrency being in cheaper transaction costs, allow for the house in this example would be a decentralized gaming platform would be able to take a lower cut because of lower fees.
For sure. And looking at the decentralized aspect of bringing blockchain into the picture, you need less infrastructure, less servers, less personnel. And I look at personnel as potential risk. The bigger the size of the centralized online gaming platform, the more risk there is for fraud, for rigging the odds, and for one single point of failure, say a disgruntled employee, to lock people out, wire the money somewhere, and everyone is fighting for themselves at that point. So decentralization is actually a good thing.
Yeah, and talk about personnel. Online casinos just have a whole team dedicated to the deposits and cash outs. There's a whole verification process. It's made more difficult because of the just connecting to bank accounts and all the other types of cards, debit cards and special accounts used to allow people to game. And a lot of banks do not allow you to use these sites, but with cryptocurrency, that would not be an issue. So it would be cheaper, faster, all around better.
Looking at chargebacks and fraud and getting money into the system, that's a challenge for a lot of online casinos today. You take on a lot of risk, and I know some have operated using PayPal or credit cards, and it's tough because people want to gamble. You don't want to deny their right to gamble in instances where it is legal, but there's a lot of risk that one takes on. If you lose a lot of money, or if you're unhappy, or if you believe that the gaming is unfair, one would likely be inclined to charge back or claim bank fraud. And through the use of cryptocurrency, people knowing that that type of exchange of value happening, entering an online casino or into a wallet, they know it's irreversible. And that's better for the casino operators because there's less likelihood of fee reversals, fraud, or people just not being satisfied or blaming the casino and wanting their money back.
Exactly, and having a bad beat and just going on emotional tilt and trying to get their money back. Yeah, and so it's better on both sides. It prevents fraud from both the players and the operators. And listen, this has happened in the past. There's so many cases of online casinos just disappearing or disappearing with people's money. And then regulation. When online poker got banned in the US, a lot of players weren't able to access their money in the accounts, and they lost all their money in the account. And using smart contracts and making payouts to your private wallet as opposed to having it in the online casino eliminates a lot of risk right there as well.
I look at blockchain solving a real problem in this instance for this industry. Now, I wouldn't be inclined, you wouldn't be inclined, Matt, to walk into a Vegas casino, place big bets, and pout, kick, scream if you lose. People just don't do that because they know what they're getting themselves into. With online gambling in today's state, there's a lot of variables. It's a concern for the operators, it's a concern for the players, and going with a decentralized model, one that is built upon blockchain technology, and the trifecta is using cryptocurrency, that creates a more lifelike, true to Vegas, so to speak, gambling experience for both the casino operator and the player.
Right. And we both mentioned the word smart contract. So Nick, can you take us through a smart contract? Let's just say I bet on the Redskins to win the Super Bowl, and there was 100-1, where it should be, right? Pretty high. And I bet 1 Bitcoin. And so that means if they win the Super Bowl next year, I get 100 Bitcoin. So how would that work exactly with my bet?
Well, I am not a technical guy like that, but just think of it as somewhat of an escrow service. It's pre-programmed. There's conditional logic built in, if and or. I know the terms, you know the terms, the contract is holding the funds. Whatever happens, it's programmed into the contract. If you win, funds will be released to you. If I win, funds will be released to me, contingent upon an outcome which can be verified.
Right. And obviously a huge asterisk, a huge if here is the smart contract and the coding needs to be verified and audited and work well, because if there's an error in the code, then there could be some serious issues. But that's going to be, taken care of over time. And there's a few projects we'll get into soon that will look at that. And so the reason I mentioned that example, Nick, is with these smart contracts, right? What if you bet on a centralized sports book, something like that, and all of a sudden you win the Super Bowl, 100 Bitcoin, and the sports book, they may not have the money, but if they've set things up into a sports contract, then you don't even have to worry about asking them for the payout. Sometimes payouts from online casinos and sports books and poker rooms can be delayed. This would happen instantly as soon as the event, meaning the Super Bowl in this case, is completed.
Another thing to touch on is, the money is there if it's programmed into the contract. And if it's verifiable by all parties, there wouldn't be any question whether, why am I not receiving payment? Why am I receiving less payment than I thought I was to be receiving? And why am I receiving payment late or something is off? That won't happen because it's programmed into something. At that point, we're taking the human element out of it. There's no the check's in the mail or, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot an extra zero on the amount.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it should have been $1,000. I'm sorry I wired you $100. With smart contracts, conditional logic, the likelihood of that happening is drastically reduced. It keeps the playing field level and the guesswork out of the uncertainties that could happen in a centralized environment.
Right. So essentially, right, I'm going to oversimplify it here. With a public blockchain, you can look at this smart contract. Instead of asking a centralized casino, hey, can I see your bank account balances to make sure you're solvent in case I win this very large bet? You can actually see it. It's public, and you're able to see that money right there. So pretty amazing. All right, let's move into the third part of the show, highlighting a few projects that are trying to solve the problem. And I'll start out here. First off, we'd like to thank the FunFair team for their contributions to this episode. They helped us out on the research aspect. And also, another startup that we looked at is Virtue Poker. So Virtue Poker is built on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's online poker. And what is the goal of Virtue Poker? Well, one, it's like we mentioned, it eliminates the player deposit risk using smart contracts. No need to go over that again. Two, we also mentioned this, lower cost and the rake, meaning the amount that the house takes. Three, the fairness. They use something called peer-to-peer shuffling. Will not be a problem. Four, we mentioned the whole idea of playing against bots. Well, bots that learn players' histories and act accordingly. Because of the decentralized nature, that will also be eliminated. I'm still learning exactly how that works out, but that's something they've mentioned as well. And four, they're also going to have an option for third-party platforms to build on top of. So, Nick, you and I could start our own poker room using Virtue Poker's technology.
It's badass. I really like Virtue Poker. Love what they're doing. And I'm not even a poker player. I don't gamble.
Yeah, and shout out to our buddy Tony Thomas. I do gamble quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to playing. I just remember when I couldn't get into online poker a long time ago, I stopped playing. I'll go to the poker room every now and then, and I'll bet on sports. But and I remember betting on the recent boxing match and just being deposit issues, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking forward to being able to game using decentralized gaming. But yeah, Nick, the other startup is FunFair. Tell us about FunFair. What is it?
So for a guy that doesn't gamble, I love FunFair. I really, really like what they're doing. I currently don't hold any coins, but I've crushed FunFair trading it. I've made so much on FunFair, and it's unfortunate that they're no longer listed on Bittrex, but I think it's a fantastic project, a sound investment, and I'll tell you why. I believe that they're the best in class for general casino play. They're building not only the technology for people to take part as players in a decentralized environment, but they're creating the infrastructure so that you can create your own casino. Think of it as like a Shopify type platform. You have all of the technology there to start your own casino, brand it, and get players to come play. And it's just up to you to market it. And I think they're doing a great thing to get their tech out there using an affiliate model. And affiliate marketing, near and dear to my heart as an internet marketer since 1999. I see that as a tremendous play for them to get interest and get people utilizing their platform.
Right on. And so we mentioned in our notes here that the token has utility. Tell us about the FunFair token.
Talking about good branding, the ticker for FunFair, fun, F-U-N. Fun tokens have true utility. You use them to place bets. So I like that from an investment perspective. Even if I'm not gambling, I look at the utility. How many transactions are happening with this token? Why are they happening? So looking at other cryptocurrencies that may not have true utility or purpose, where it may be a great blockchain tech company, but the cryptocurrency component is really only utilized to trade. At that point, it becomes more of a security, in my opinion. Whereas fun tokens, you can use them to place bets on blackjack, on slots, what have you. And that naturally creates a scenario where volume is baked into the ecosystem. So as a trader, I like that. There's going to be usage no matter what. Even if people gamble and lose, those tokens are still going around the crypto ecosystem.
Right on. Yeah, and like many, neither FunFair or Virtue Poker has had their full launch. And I think it's worth noting that FunFair is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Nick, but I believe that FunFair, they're also a platform that other people can build their casinos on top of. So if you want to launch a casino, not having to worry about the smart contracts and a solution for gaming and building that casino and smart contracts over, you can just build on top of FunFair.
100%. You can be an affiliate. Think of it as the Shopify of casinos.
Right on. And then, Nick, you also seem to like the team. Tell us about their team.
I love FunFair. I wrote what I think, actually what Google thinks, the best review on FunFair you can find on the internet. So if you Google FunFair review, my website, my review that I wrote last summer is ranking number 1 on coin reviews if you find that result. So in that review, you'll see the executive team. I believe in this team. Jez San, the CEO, he's running it like a publicly traded company. If you look at other people who are seasoned investors, Mike Novogratz, he is taken a look at the opportunity. He has made an investment in FunFair. There are a lot of other people who realize the potential for the company, but the executive team has experience not only in the tech side of running an online casino, but the graphics and audio and visual and just the entire presentation. It's super smooth. They do it really, really well. I believe their CEO, Jez San, he created the Super Nintendo game Star Fox. I probably have to go to Wikipedia to verify that, but if I remember that and I'm saying that now, it's likely true.
Wow, and I remember Star Fox. What an amazing video game.
That's our childhood right there. So if we've put our trust in a CEO to create addictive technology, that's what this is, addictive technology, he's going to deliver again. And the stakes have just gone up, weaving cryptocurrency into the business model, weaving blockchain into the business model, weaving decentralization into the business model. Regardless of the token, regardless of speculation, I believe FunFair is one of the most interesting and meaningful projects in blockchain today. And I really, really, really look forward to seeing what they're going to do as we approach 2025.
Wow. And even sooner. And yeah, very exciting. I think the conclusion here, Nick, is pretty easy. It's not always going to be so cut and dry, but yeah, I'm very bullish. It overcomes some of the problems with the regulation, overcomes trust, faster, cheaper, and better for everyone.
I'm with you. I'm bullish. There's no downsides for the industry. This is going to eliminate bad casino operators. It's better for players. It's fantastic for entrepreneurs that want to create their own card game through Virtue Poker, or even go into the business of creating their own online casino built upon FunFair's tech. It improves the entire industry for all parties.
For sure. Yeah. And gambling desperately needs it. You know, there's been plenty of stories of robberies and mistrust and scams in the gambling industry. You have, I don't know if the mob runs Las Vegas anymore, but you know, you still have some, whether they're the mob or the mafia or not, some very shady characters in there, and we need trust. So this is a A+ for blockchain to disrupt. Well, great episode. Make sure to leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us, and spread the word. We can be found at Bitcoin.com/podcast. And before we go, Nick, what industry are we going to cover next week?
Next week, we'll be talking about the art industry.
Art. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. And I've already started research, and I think listeners will enjoy it as well. All right, Nick. Well, thanks so much, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Bitcoin.com podcast network. To learn more about our shows, visit Bitcoin.com/podcast. Bitcoin.com podcast network.